Hi guys, Craig here, and in this video I'm going to show you what methods I used to control algae and blanket weed in my garden pond, and even a treatment that helps reduce the amount of sludge on the bottom of your pond so that you can sit down and enjoy watching crystal clear water flow through your garden pond again. So many of us struggle with algae and blanket weed in our ponds. This normally occurs when the weather starts to warm up and you get too much sunlight or too many nutrients in your pond. It can get out of control and it can be harmful to your fish as well as your filter system. So I start by removing as much of the blanket weed as I can, manually, just by twining it around a stick or a garden tool. And don't worry, I'm just going to put the blanket weed to the side of the pond so that any wildlife that's living in there can crawl its way out and make its way back into the water, so that I'm not harming any of that wildlife that I've worked hard to bring into my garden with this water feature. Manually removing the blanket weed like this isn't hard work, but it will help our treatment. It just gives it a head start so that it doesn't need to work so hard. The blanket weed in my pond had got out of control, and it was being sucked into the pond pump, which can cause a lot of damage as it wraps around the motor. So pulling it out manually like this at the start of the treatment is just going to help prevent that from happening. So here's the blanket weed and algae that I've managed to remove from my pond manually. Like I say, this is just going to help give my algae and blanket weed treatment a head start. So the blanket weed and algae control treatment that I'm going to use to remove blanket weed from my pond is this Blanket Answer. It's a product that was recommended to me by a viewer on my YouTube channel. You mix it with water and sprinkle it over the surface of your pond, and it's said to be really, really effective. So let's give it a go. I was really pleased to see that this product comes with a scoop, which makes measuring out my blanket weed control much more easier. The instructions tell you how much to use based on the size of your pond, so just check the instructions and mix it with water accordingly. And for the next step, you just mix your blanket weed control powder with some water. It makes quite a milky looking fluid, but don't worry, this product isn't supposed to be harmful to fish, wildlife, or any pond life, and even if you've got a biological pond filter, this isn't going to do any harm. So with the 2 gallons of my watering can filled up and mixed with my blanket weed control product, it's time to add it to the pond. It does say on the packaging that it will look milky for the first day or two, but it will clear up, so don't worry about that. So the next step is to apply your blanket weed control product into the surface of your pond, and the instructions just say to apply it evenly over the surface of your pond. So that's what I'm doing. Little by little, I'm sprinkling the blanket weed control over the surface of my pond. In time, the pump's going to distribute it throughout the pond anyway, but I'm just making sure the whole of my water feature gets a good even dose of this blanket weed treatment. So with the blanket weed control treatment applied, you can see the water in my ponds looking a little bit milky, but the product says don't worry about this. Like I say, it should clear up. So I'll turn the pump back on and I'll come back to check on it in a few days' time. One thing that's going to really help control blanket weed in your pond is by adding more oxygen into the water. And here you can see that I've just got a pipe splashing water back into the surface of the pond. If you can do something like this, or even an air pump, it's just going to help the treatment work all that bit better. And here we are 4 days later, and you can see how crystal clear the water is, so it didn't stay milky for long. And the product is really starting to control that blanket weed. Already, almost all of the blanket weed has been removed from my pond. and what blanket weed there is left is really starting to brown off and look really weak, so the product is definitely doing its job. I might reapply this product in a few weeks' time, but I am really happy with how quickly and easily this has got my blanket weed under control. In fact, I was so happy that I went back online and bought another product that's sold by the same company that they recommend using as a follow-up treatment to your pond. This is their Sludge Answer product, which you add to ponds, and it's a bacteria that will digest all of the sludge that's sitting on the bottom of your pond. And believe me, once you've treated your blanket weed, you'll see the bottom of your pond again, and you'll notice all of that sludge. And it's applied using very much the same technique. Just follow the instructions on the packet and mix the right amount of bacteria with water based on the size of your pond. And they've even thought about making measuring out the product easy with this liquid product too, which comes with this self-measuring container, which is a great idea. So I'm just going to mix the right amount of Sludge Answer with water to then apply it to the surface of my pond, just as before. Again, just apply the pond sludge control evenly over the surface of your pond. This one isn't a milky colour, so it's harder to tell where you've been. So start from one end and work your way down to the other. As I'm applying this sludge removal product, I'm looking into the water and noticing that I cannot see any blanket weed or algae at all. That first product has done such a good job, so I'm just hoping this product is just as good. Again, I'll give it a few days and I'll check back in and see what the difference is. There's a pebble bottom to my stream and you can't see it because it is absolutely covered in pond sludge. So if this pond sludge removal bacteria works, you should start to see the pebbles reappear and see the bottom of the pond again. The reviews online say it's like magic. They don't know how it works, but the sludge just starts to recede. So let's see what happens. And this is just 3 days later. I don't know where the sludge is going, but I can see the stones that make up the bottom of the pond, and I can see the concrete that I used to build the pond. It's amazing. And apparently this product just keeps working more and more and more. And like the blanket control, you can reapply it throughout the year. And like the previous treatment, this product says it's not harmful to your fish or wildlife at all. I'm actually surprised at how well this sludge removal product works. The pond sludge is receding, being digested by this bacteria, and I'm seeing the bottom of the pond, which I haven't seen for years. It is crystal clear, and let's remember what I started with. So these are the two products that I use to control blanket weed and algae, and then remove pond sludge, and they've done an amazing job, so I've put links to the products in the description below. Thank you for watching, and feel free to hit subscribe and check out my other videos.